Sure, absolutely. I am Desiree Goldey. I'm currently talent operations manager for an RPO, which is Hub Recruiting. It's based out of Boston. We are about 115 people. I've been doing talent ops for about 2 years. Before that, recruiting for about 15. So been doing this a long time. So I'm super excited to be here. Seriously, I think the true answer is that I do spend about 1 day a week at least on e-conferences or reading ebooks or really trying to stay up to date on those trends and best practices from other organizations, doing a lot of research. But I belong to so many groups and so many publications. So I'm constantly reading, and I set aside time for that every week. So it's a big deal for me to stay on top of things. Yeah, I think this is a hard one, right? Because I don't think anybody saw what the market was going to do even last year, or during, the pandemic. So this was a hard one for me to kind of wrap my head around. I think the market it's so many fluctuations. I think the best way is to really get your systems, your processes understood, really work on candidate experience, really make a hiring process, work with your hiring managers to make sure that process is concise and clear, and really work on communication within your organization if you have any influence over that, because I think those are going to be all the necessary tools to make a successful process here in the coming years. Yeah, I'm a huge believer in candidate experience. So I think the hardest part of recruiting is getting someone through the process in an effective manner with a lot of communication. And a lot of organizations at this time have made the hiring process extremely, extremely hard with a lot of interviews and a lot of process. And I think there's a lot of lost candidates that happen because of that. And I think, I've done a lot of corporate recruiting. And so I think there's lost candidates because of too long of a process or low comp. Those would be some of the challenges. And on the agency side, I just think the competitive nature, which I work for agency as well, I think the competitive nature of working in an agency environment, just leans itself to having challenges as well. But on that corporate side, definitely the hiring process is it's always going to be your biggest fight. Yeah, I think for me, recruiting is all about organization and managing your time. So I don't think I have 5 trends, but I will say that I use my technology very effectively. I have a whiteboarding tool. I have a to-do list. I use my ATS in a very specific way and take advantage of it fully. And so really diving into those tools. And I think that's how I ended up in ops, because I really focus on the systems and the processes. But any technology that's going to help you manage your candidates, manage your day, and give you some time, effectiveness to your day is going to be key. Yeah, this is a hard one for me. I think this is the first year, or last year started this process of candidates ghosting people. I had never experienced that in my career. And so I think we've all had to adapt. And in this market, it's such a tough market with little to no candidates and a ton of jobs, you're going to get some of this. And I think the way for me is if I think it's truly someone I need to talk to, that I think they're just the perfect fit, then I just am persistent. And if they ghosted me, I don't take it personally and I just keep trying. On the ones that ghost me where I was kind of iffy, I kind of don't waste my time. It's just not worth me going after them if they didn't feel like it was worth it. But sometimes things happen too, right? So I always, if it's somebody I think is a fit, I am definitely persistent about it. Yeah, I think this goes also back to the ghosting question, right? My thing has always been to stay organized, focus on those candidates that you really, really want, and try to develop some kind of connection, make a connection through them, through messaging, whatever it is you have to do to be able to move those people through. And that really takes some skill, because there's going to be, especially if you're working for an organization that's very popular, you are going to get a ton of inbound leads and applicants. And so keeping those organized, focusing on the ones you really want, making those connections and really driving the process, I think is going to be the best way for you to handle it. Yeah, I think my first couple of things I always look for are, energy and excitement, right? Like I really need to see the energy for the job, right? If you come to the phone interview and you're like, hi, I don't know what we're talking about today. Like, it drives me insane, right? So that energy and excitement to be talking to me, energy and excitement about the job. And I also look for the fact that you are prepared for the interview. Did you do the research? Do you know who you're actually talking to? I remember being a job seeker and you're you're applying to 100 jobs. But when you get that interview, you should definitely know who you're going to be speaking to, be prepared, and have done some research. And those are big, big things for me. Yeah, I'm the diversity, equity, and inclusion lead for my organization. And I would say, and this just goes for a general purpose, that I think, recruiters tend to have bias immediately from a resume, right? I don't care whether it's the school you went to, your name, where you lived, all of those things. Immediately, we do it, no matter if we don't even know we're doing it, right? And I think that's the biggest fault we make. And we're always going to make it, because there's always going to be bias. But I think that we have to be, really clear and understand that it's there and try to work around it. And I think the way to do that is really learning about that subject, about bias. I think recruiters should be the first ones to be doing that research on that. And not just for diversity purposes, for any purpose, right? Just learning how to read a resume without, being judgmental to it. So I think that's huge. Yeah, I think, first of all, if you're on that phone call, it's that personality it rings through, right? I talked about energy and excitement, bringing those, being prepared, understanding who you're talking to as well. Just like I talked about a candidate doing the research, you should have done it as well for your candidate. And I think that those are huge. And making a personal connection is always huge. Yeah, I think some of the best practices for me and for new recruiters is really making sure they match the skill set for the job description, that they are a culture fit. And culture is hard to determine, right? But if collaboration is a big thing for your organization, making sure they hit those key markers or whatever they are. Look at the values of your own organization, make sure they match those, talk about those things, come up with some behavioral questions around it, around your morals and values and all of those things. And then you'll start to pick out red flags or pick out whether they're a good fit for the organization. Never base it on comp. That is my last thing. I don't believe in that. I believe that, if they are in the comp range and they ask for a little bit more, but they're perfect, I think there's always discussions to be had. And if they ask for a little bit less, it's because people tend to undervalue themselves. So, don't make comp the last thing that you're going to do, right? make it do make it the last thing you're going to focus in on. Make everything else more important. Mine are, talking bad about your previous employer to the point where it seems almost derogatory. You're obviously leaving for a reason, but I don't want to hear, a really ton of bad talk about it. It really drives me crazy. It's a huge thing for me. I also think if comp is their main reason and only reason, it bothers me as well. If they're not excited to leave for a growth or a challenge or whatever, it's strictly for $5,000 more. I also question those type of things. And a lack of communication skills, the ability not to talk to me or be concise and being prepared to explain their past history is one of those red flags. If you can't explain to me what you did specifically in each role, I question whether you were even doing all those things that are on your resume. Right. So those are some things that bother me personally. Right. But I think each recruiter has probably their own pet peeves, and those are mine.